It's pointed to here by the arrow. And remember, Jesus said, do you suppose these 18 on whom the tower fell and killed were worse culprits than all the men did? 18 people were killed here, and sure enough, we found where that tower had fallen, and these huge stones that were probably laid there by the Jebusites had fallen, and that was what had been protecting. This is where 18 people were killed, and the wall of Hezekiah is a very impressive find found by Eli Sucron. Again, back in 2 Chronicles 32, Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib had come, intended to make war on Jerusalem. He took courage, rebuilt all the wall that had been broken down, erected towers on it, and built another outside wall. So in addition to redirecting the water to the west side, he built an outside wall that we see here, protecting what Joab had climbed up through. And here it is. Kenyon referred to this specifically, said it didn't exist. There's no wall. If there was a wall, I would have found it. Well, if she had been if she'd been looking for it, I think she'd have found it. This is hard to miss. This is huge. But when you're not looking for it and don't believe it's there, then it's easy to miss. And she did, but it's obviously there, just as described in Scripture. On the west side, the far extremity, there's a description of the wall that was built when Nehemiah was rebuilding the walls in chapter 2, verse 17. He rebuilt the wall of Jerusalem. Verse 8 of chapter 3 says they restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. This is as far as in the western direction goes. Well, you go to the western side and you look at the wall, and there it is, and it's 23 feet across. That's the broadest part of that rebuilt wall, and that's exactly the way it's described. The tombs of the house of David were one of the things Kenyon referred to and said there's no reference to the tomb. In 1 Kings 2 says that David slept with his fathers, was buried. Well, if you find some of the tombs of the prophets, and there's several there, you ought to certainly find where David was buried. Well, we did. It was difficult because Queen Helena had made this her quarry, and I think it was a beautiful edifice initially, several indications of that. But you see where the square areas are. She's quarrying stones here to build her buildings, and had destroyed this, but even the liberals now acknowledge, yes, this is David's and Solomon's tombs, and they were probably beautiful before Queen Helena destroyed them. The walls that surrounded the temple, a few portions of that do remain. Remember, of course, the story of the Romans marching in, destroying Herod's temple, and a portion of the retaining wall, not the temple, but the retaining wall, is seen here in what's referred to often as the Wailing Wall, or the Western Wall. The upper portion that you can just barely see, the smaller stones, was built by the Crusaders. The midsection was done by Hadrian, but the lower section, the much bigger, more elaborate stones, were laid down by Herod, and actually they continue about 30 feet below the street level there. You can't see all of it, but here are some of those large stones that Herod built, and you can see the bosses around the edges. The southern extremity of that same wall was excavated about 15 years ago, and it's really interesting. Again, you see the small stones up top that were done by the Crusaders, and then at the base, Herod's wall. But notice this structure here in the side. It probably looked like this. In fact, there's real good indication that it did. It's referred to as Robinson's Arch. He excavated and found this a good while back, about 100 years ago, though they had not excavated below that. But this is where that arch connected and led to shops, the first century shops that are down here in the foreground, arched over a first century street. But all of where the Crusaders have built here, there were huge buildings, very elaborate buildings, that came tumbling down when the Romans destroyed this. Again, not the temple walls, but here the retaining wall around the temple. And what we see at the base of that wall, and is where those huge stones hit that first century street and just pummeled it, destroyed it, which is exactly what we read about in Scripture. So those walls, together with the fact they have fallen, all testifies to just exactly what we read about in Scripture. As we read the description of the Temple Mount and the Pool of Siloam and this area of the city of David, we read of the stairs that go down to the pool. Nehemiah 3, when they're rebuilding it, spoke of the Pool of Siloam and the stairs that go down from the city of David. Well, about 10 years ago, a Bible-believing archaeologist excavated on the south side where they would be going down and found the stairs that go down, according to the Scriptures, to the Pool of Siloam. Now, it's about half a mile down there, and so we haven't got all of them, but they began looking at these stairs. Now, these would be significant. These are the stairs Jesus stood on. These are the stairs the apostles stood on. Right here is the Gate Beautiful, the edifice built into it, covering it up, built by, guess who? Queen Helena, Constantine's mother, who made all kinds. Why did she build? I'm not sure. I don't know. But she covered up the Gate Beautiful. But right below where that area is where the lame man in Acts chapter 3 jumped up. And that's where Peter and John were preaching. As we turn to the right, we can see those stairs extending along the southern extent of the Temple Mount and toward Mount of Olives in the background. We're reminded of the statement that from the temple to the Mount of Olives was a Sabbath day's journey. How long is that? Well, there it is. You can see. And as you turn back around to the right again, you see down those stairs toward the city of David, actually a little bit more to the right. Going down those stairs, we have sunk shafts, and those stairs do continue all the way down to the Pool of Siloam, though we couldn't find them as we neared the pool. This is referred to in John 9, where Jesus told the blind man, go wash in the Pool of Siloam. As we suggested in 2004, we finally found the real pool, which is this green area covered by the fig trees and the pomegranates owned by the Anglican Church, who say, this is our fig tree grove and you can't have it. We're negotiating at this point. But in June of 2004, they were repairing a sewer pipe, and as they did, they found these steps going down. Elie Sucron immediately recognized this as the Pool of Siloam, though he was ridiculed by many. By November of that year, when we were there, we took this picture. Obviously, much more had been excavated. And then by June of 2005, it looked like this. Now, we still don't have a permit. We have a permit to fix the sewer pipe, and so we're fixing the daylights out of that sewer pipe. But this is what we believe the pool looked like from some shafts that we have been able to sink in various areas. You could have baptized 3,000 people there all at the same time. A magnificent pool. The Temple Mount is back to the left. This escarpment over here is blocking the way. And where are the stairs that go up to the Temple Mount? Well, there were stairs that we found over here, and they led to a plaza with a colonnade, and we thought, well, maybe they go this direction and then they turn and go back to the north. The more we excavated, the more we realized that was not the case. But here is the extension, as we showed, that goes all the way down to the Pool of Siloam. We have been excavating there since 2004, and here's my wife working with Ronnie Rach here in the red shirt, one of the supervisors. And this is the way it looked this past June. Obviously a huge pool, but where are the stairs? Well, this escarpment over here on the right is blocking the way, and we kept looking. Here's the description again from Nehemiah chapter 3. He repaired the wall by the Pool of Siloam, the steps going down from the city of David.